when the CBA negotiations are going on, the owners are sitting across from the Players Association, the negotiators are in the room, they're trying to iron out things, and the owners all come together and they ask a question, they pose a question to the players, and the question's simple. Where's Caitlin Clark? Why isn't she here? And why isn't she sticking up for you ladies and advocating on your behalf? And when the Players Association, when the people in that room hear that question, they're going to be looking at each other, confused, lost, and without an answer that doesn't make them look incredibly foolish.
What happens when the most popular player in WNBA history gets ranked like she barely belongs in the league? That's exactly what just happened to Caitlin Clark. Despite leading all players in All-Star fan votes with over 1.2 million, Clark was shockingly ranked 9th among guards by her fellow WNBA players. Not 2nd, not 5th, 9th. And the message couldn't be clearer. It's not about performance anymore, it's personal. What we're witnessing isn't just a snub, it's a full-blown exposure of the jealousy, resentment, and silent war brewing inside the league. This isn't about basketball, it's about power, image, and control land. Caitlin Clark just walked right into the middle of it. Today, we're breaking down exactly how this disrespectful ranking revealed everything fans have been suspecting for months. Because when your actions don't match your words, the truth has a way of exposing itself, and the WNBA just got caught red-handed.
As you guys know by now, WNBA All-Star captains have been announced. Team Collier versus Team Clark, the top two vote getters when it comes to fan voting. Caitlin Clark, over 1.2 million fan votes. Napheesa Collier not too far behind with 1.1 million fan votes. Aaliyah Boston was close, less than 2,000 votes away from a Team Clark versus Team Boston All-Star game experience. That would have been quite the entertainment, but instead we get Team Clark versus Team Napheesa Collier.
When the WNBA released its All-Star voting results, fans expected to see Caitlin Clark near the top of every list. After all, she didn't just lead the league in fan votes, she dominated with over 1.2 million votes, far ahead of the next closest players. But when the player and media rankings dropped, jaws hit the floor. Caitlin Clark, the biggest draw in the league, was ranked 9th among guards by her fellow players. 9th. Behind her own teammate, Kelsey Mitchell, behind Natasha Cloud, behind Brittany Sykes. Let that sink in. This wasn't just a minor disagreement over stats, this was a deliberate statement. And the message was crystal clear. We don't respect what you've brought to this league. It's not just odd, it's insulting. Clark has already made history multiple times in her rookie season, consistently breaking attendance records, boosting national viewership, and injecting more excitement into the league than it's seen in decades. But instead of celebrating her, players voted her down as if she were just another rookie with hype and no substance. That's not basketball logic, that's politics. And here's the irony. The same players who ranked her 9th are the ones who guard her like she's the MVP. They press her full court, they trap her, they send double teams. You don't throw the kitchen sink at the 9th best guard. You save that for a threat, for someone you fear. And that's exactly what Caitlin Clark has become, a threat to the status quo. This vote wasn't just about skill. It exposed the unspoken feelings simmering under the surface in resistance, maybe even fear, because Clark's presence has changed the power dynamics in the WNBA, and not everyone's happy about it. And the wildest part, the disrespect didn't end with the voting. What happened next added even more fuel to the fire.
And what everybody is talking about are the player rankings when it comes to the All-Star ballot. They put Caitlin Clark number 9 as far as the guards go for the WNBA. Not number 2 behind, I don't know who would possibly be ahead of her. Not number 3, not 4, not 5. Shout out to LeBron James. Not 1, not 2, not 3. They put her all the way at number 9 behind Paige, behind her teammate Kelsey Mitchell, behind Natasha Cloud, behind Brittany Sykes. This is absolutely egregious. and downright disrespectful.
The kind of jealousy simmering beneath the surface of this vote didn't happen overnight. From the moment Clark entered the WNBA, she brought with her national headlines. Recognition, then watching a rookie get shoe deals, interviews, and instant fame before. The tension was inevitable. But instead of channeling that frustration into competition or mentorship, many players turned it into quiet hostility. They shrugged off her success. They questioned her toughness. They finally had a chance to send a message without saying a word, and they did. Ranking Clark 9th wasn't just an opinion, it was retaliation. Not for something she did, but for what she represents. She's young. She challenges the old guard simply by existing. That's a tough pill to swallow. But here's what makes it worse. Clark hasn't thrown shade. She hasn't clapped back. In fact, she's been respectful, supportive, and focused on the game. That's what makes the backlash so obvious. It's not about her behavior, it's about her presence. And it's exposing who's really for the game. It wasn't just frustration, it was a boundary, a turning point. The moment she realized that loyalty in this league is a one, especially when you see who's coaching her at the All-Star game. If the player rankings didn't already make things awkward, the All-Star coaching announcement took it to another level. By league rule, the head coaches for the WNBA All-Star Game are chosen based on team records at a certain cutoff date. And, wouldn't you know it, Cheryl Reeve, head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, landed the top spot. That means she'll be coaching the very player she spent months publicly questioning, Caitlin Clark. You couldn't script this better if you tried. Reeve has been one of Clark's most vocal critics. Court, she's questioned the Caitlin Clark effect, pushed back on the media obsession, and even implied that her stardom was being overhyped. But now, she has to coach her, not just stand next to her, but draw up plays for her, guide her through an exhibition watched by millions, and represent her as a leader. Talk about uncomfortable. What makes this even more fascinating is that Clark doesn't need Reeve's approval. She already has the fans, the media attention, and the numbers to back her up. But Reeve now finds herself in the awkward position of benefiting from the very player she's tried to diminish. It's poetic. The coach, who dismissed the hype now, has to help fuel it. And it raises an uncomfortable question. How many other coaches and players feel the same way, but don't say it out loud? How many silently resent Clark's influence while cashing in on the attention she brings to the league? This All-Star Game won't just be a showcase of talent, it'll be a showcase of hypocrisy. Rehearsed sound bites. But underneath it all, you'll feel the tension. Because when your biggest critic is forced to stand in your corner, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. And if that wasn't enough drama, the WNBA's narrative manipulation goes even deeper, especially when it comes to how they spin the rise in viewership. One of the most common defenses WNBA loyalists throw out when confronted with Caitlin Clark's impact is this: the league was already growing before she got here. It's repeated by analysts, echoed by players, and pushed by media outlets, trying to preserve the illusion that everything was fine before Clark arrived. But here's the problem, it's just not true. Let's talk numbers. The WNBA hadn't reached a million-viewer regular season game in over 16 years. Attendance was stagnant, merchandise wasn't flying off shelves. Social media engagement was lukewarm at best. Then Caitlin Clark stepped onto the court, and suddenly, everything changed. Overnight, arenas were selling out. Road games became hot tickets. National broadcasts were hitting record highs. Even casual fans who had never watched a WNBA game before were tuning in. And yet, despite all this clear, measurable evidence, league insiders continue to push the narrative that Clark just gave the league a slight boost. A little nudge, a soft assist to an already rising trend. It's laughable, and more importantly, it's dishonest. Why would they lie about it? Simple. Admitting Clark is the catalyst means admitting they weren't growing before her. It means facing the reality that a single rookie changed the game more in 6 months than many veterans have in 6 years. That kind of truth threatens egos, legacy, and control. So instead of celebrating the impact, they downplay it. They tell fans the surge is due to years of hard work, that crowds were always that loud. But fans aren't buying a tand, neither is Clark. In fact, she's already said it plainly, don't use my name when it benefits you. If you're not going to respect what I bring, the hypocrisy is clear. And it gets even worse when you Look at how these same people treat her on the court, because their words don't match their actions, not even close. If you believed the All-Star rankings, you'd think Caitlin Clark was just an average guard neath best in the league. Maybe a decent rookie, but nothing special. But the way teams treat her during games tells a completely different story. She's guarded like a superstar. We're talking full court pressure, double teams, traps at half court, constant physicality, and blitzing her like she's Steph Curry in the playoffs. Coaches design entire defensive schemes around stopping her. Broadcasters call it out. Fans notice it. Yet somehow, these same players turn around and rank her behind teammates and guards she completely outperforms in every metric that matters. That's not basketball logic. That's a grudge. Because if you really believed Clark was the ninth guard, you wouldn't waste your best defender on her. You wouldn't chase her around the court for 40 minutes like your life depends on it. You wouldn't be fouling her on drives, face guarding her off the ball, or celebrating when she misses a shot. That level of defensive intensity is reserved for threats. And whether they want to admit it or not, Clark is a threat. A threat to the old hierarchy. A threat to the narrative. A threat to the image of a league that prides itself on unity, while quietly playing favorites. And here's the thing, Clark hasn't complained. She hasn't thrown a fit. She just keeps showing up, taking the hits, and giving everything she has. Meanwhile, the same people who rough her up on the floor pretend she's just another player when the cameras are off. It's not just disrespect, it's dishonesty, because their actions say she's the best. But their votes scream, we wish she wasn't. And that disconnect, it's exactly what's driving fans to question what's really going on behind the scenes. Because at this point, the hate is no longer subtle, it's systemic. Let's stop pretending this is about basketball. The truth is, Caitlin Clark brought something to the WNBA that many weren't ready for: a new type of audience. These aren't just longtime league supporters or casual viewers who demand accountability, who aren't afraid to criticize poor performances, missed shots, or lack of effort. And that has rattled the system. For years, WNBA players operated in a bubble of protection. Criticism was rare, and praise was often unconditional. But Clark's arrival changed that overnight. Every lackluster game had eyes on it. Real eyes, millions of them. And many of those eyes weren't clapping for mediocrity, they were questioning it. That shift in tone exposed the league's soft spots. Some players couldn't take the heat, the comments, the tweets, the debates on sports talk shows. For someone like Caitlin, who's been under a spotlight for years, it was just another Tuesday. But for others who weren't used to that scrutiny, it felt like betrayal. That's why so many players seem uncomfortable. It's not Clark they hit this, what she represents: change, exposure, pressure. She didn't bring fans that blindly praise, she brought fans that expect excellence. And not everyone wants that. Just look at what happened with Dawana Bonner. The second she faced real criticism from fans, she bailed. Couldn't handle the pushback, couldn't take being held to a higher standard. That's the difference between the old guard and the new wave. One thrives under pressure, the other runs from it. And here's the kicker, the WNBA thought it wanted growth. It begged for visibility. But now that it has it, the league is realizing that real growth doesn't come with guaranteed applause. It comes with judgment, with truth. And Caitlin Clark is at the center of that reckoning. Whether they like it or not, the league has changed, the fans have changed, and the game is never going back to what it was. If you think the players are the only ones downplaying Caitlin Clark's impact, look a little closer at the media. Because while fans are watching Clark break records and sell out arenas, a quiet but calculated effort is underway to control the narrative, and it's not being done through bold headlines, it's being done through silence, manipulation, and selective praise. Take the MVP conversation. Despite Nika Ogwumik's dominant numbers and impact, the media still places A'ja Wilson at the top of every ballot, even when the stats don't support it. Why? Because Wilson fits the preferred storyline. She's safe, established, and part of the inner circle. Meanwhile, someone like Clark disrupts everything. She shifts attention, breaks old models, and threatens media favorites. The same thing is happening with all-star coverage. Media outlets barely mention Clark's ninth-place guard ranking. They don't question how the league's biggest star, who brings in millions of viewers, gets voted behind bench players. There's no outrage, no hard questions, just silence. But that silence speaks volumes. Last year, media members were loud. They've flooded social media with opinions, shaped award debates, and pushed clear agendas. But this year, they've gone quiet, because they've realized that open manipulation doesn't work anymore. Fans are paying attention. The backlash is real. So instead of shouting, they whisper. They influence with omissions and soft narratives. They talk up others while conveniently leaving Clark out of the conversation. It's a smarter strategy, but it's still just as dishonest because the truth is, Clark is forcing the media to pick a side. They can either cover the league honestly or protect the old guard at the expense of credibility. Right now, too many are choosing the latter. And the more they do, the more fans see the pattern. The more obvious it becomes that this isn't just about rankings or votes. It's about control. And as the league tightens its grip, Clark's presence keeps loosening it one game, one headline, one exposed bias at a time. For all the downplaying, all the silence, and all the shady voting, nothing reveals the truth more clearly than what happens on the court. If you really want to know how WNBA players feel about Caitlin Clark, forget the rankings, watch the games. Because while the league wants you to believe she's a mid-tier rookie, the defenders guarding her tell a very different story. They pick her up full court. From the second she crosses the baseline, she's hounded, trapped at half court, blitzed off-ball screens, body checked on cuts, elbows thrown on drives. You don't waste that kind of energy on someone you think is ninth best. You throw the kitchen sink at someone you fear, and clearly, they fear her. We've seen this kind of defensive obsession with legends Diana Taurasi in her prime, Maya Moore during championship runs, Sue Bird in playoff moments. Now Clark is getting the same treatment, only with none of the respect. And that's the contradiction that exposes everything. If they really believed she was overrated, but they do, and the league doesn't just ignore that, they hide it. They show the fouls, but don't question the intent. They highlight the matchups, but not the extra attention. They push the narrative that she's adjusting to the physicality of the pros without asking why that physicality seems to ramp up only when she has the ball. This isn't just basketball, it's symbolic. It's the league throwing everything it can at the one player who threatens to redefine what WNBA success looks like. Clark didn't rise through the system the right way. She didn't pay dues the traditional way. She came in with cameras, millions of fans, and expectations that shattered the league's comfort zone. And instead of rising with her, seeing is a system cracking under the weight of its own hypocrisy. The more they try to bury her, the more obvious it becomes that she's already changed the game. They don't need to say it. They don't need to vote for her, because their actions say it all. The WNBA thought it could downplay Caitlin Clark without consequences, that it could take her spotlight, her fans, her record-breaking numbers, and still treat her like an outsider. But in trying to humble her, they exposed themselves. The 9th ranking wasn't just a snub. It was a mask slipping. It revealed the jealousy, the politics, the fear of change that runs deep in the league's foundation. Clark didn't beg for fame. She earned it through hard work, elite performance, and undeniable impact. And yet, she's been met with silence, shade, and resistance from the very people who benefit from her presence. That's not a league that's growing. That's a league afraid to grow differently at this point. Caitlin Clark doesn't owe anyone a defense, not her teammates, not the league, not even the media. She's already delivered in and off the court. And if the WNBA can't recognize that, the fans will dot, because fans see through the noise. They see who's getting double-teamed, who's changing the game, who's bringing the lights with them every time they step on the floor. And if the league keeps biting the hand that feeds it, don't be surprised when the hand stops showing up.